Some call me the Oracle. Some call me Whitestar, Aquasil, Cellular to Spokes. Technically, Whitestar Eagle Visions. I earned these names traditionally. I'm a pipe carrier, a lodge keeper. I'm a prophecy teacher. Right now, as a species, we are going through this amazing revolution. And you're a part of it. You know, way back in 2012 when nothing happened, so much happened. But they forgot to tell you. They forgot to show you. I'm sure you recognize the whole world is in a real interesting place right now. And the prophecies are clear that the past is coming to an end, is being dismantled as gently as possible, but definitively being dismantled. And you, as a human, are becoming so much more than you used to be. New chakras, new frequencies, new energies, new awareness, new science. You want to keep up? Come hang out with me once a week. We're going to talk about some really interesting stuff. Weird is the new sexy, they tell me. So come on, let's get weird together. Attack wise. See you soon. Here, have some. I'm very happy to see you this week. Again, this checking in once a week with you gives me an opportunity to check in once a week with me. Certainly inspired by the guests that come on, and I, just like you, I love hearing their stories and exploring the worlds that they're playing. And we kind of identify who we are and how we are, through these mirrors that other people bring into our world, right? We see a little piece of ourselves in that other person, good or bad. We've already learned, if your mama hasn't taught you, those things you don't like in other people are very, very likely those things you dislike about yourself. And so it's all projection, et cetera, et cetera. And if your mama didn't teach you that, well, then you just learned it. And same too goes for those things, that you see in other people that, you appreciate about yourself also. Right. It's important that we honor both of those dynamics, opportunities for growth and opportunities for even recognizing ourselves is also a growth dynamic as well. We can build upon our glories, if you like. We can build upon the gold that we own within ourselves. Fascinating conversation we're having backstage. We have Ariel joining us again today. I'm not going to bring it out just yet. I'm going to share this story with you. But and I'm so excited to have her on board here again. And I know we're going to have her on again in the future in a big way. We're just going to sharing some stuff. And one of the things that I was sharing as well with Carrie, who is our backstage producer, the unsung hero who, makes sure everything is working. But, we don't even hear her name. So thank you, Carrie. And I was sharing a story about my whole life. I've been aware energetically of this 30 feet around my body. The human experience, the human Torah, the aura itself, which actually flows in this toric field, dynamic, is about 30 feet big. And so technically anything coming in to within 30 feet of me, technically it's almost like I got this perimeter little bell that goes off and I go, huh? And I check. And if it's something I need to pay attention to, great. And if it isn't something I need to pay attention to, then I just let it go. Right? And I just kind of deal with my life accordingly. That means I could be sitting in a room, this room, and tapping into stuff that happens below me, above me, because it's 30 feet and walls don't matter. It's not perfectly spherical. It's kind of more like an egg shape, if you like, but that's us showing up and interacting. And of course, they all anchor in through the chakras. But again, I've always had this awareness, of anything and all things that come into my space, to the point where, for example, if I was in a restaurant, if the waitress just in the back of her brain goes, I should pay attention to those guys over at that table over there. I'll grab them some coffee. If she thinks about me, it's kind of like she goes ding, 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 ding. And I pay attention and I know she's on her way with a coffee cup and I'll drown it and be ready for the next cup. Right? To the amazement of many of my friends and waitresses, etc. And this was just normal for me. And that's how my life works. This is why crowds sometimes are difficult, because I'm filtering everything, right? And I'm sharing this story partially because I know some of you also experience this also. And this is that ESP, that awareness, that psychic, that the kinetic connection to our world around us is because we really are 30 feet big. This physical vibration is only the densest part of our aura and our vibration, our living essence. The outward vibrations get much lighter and much more intangible, if you like, but it's still got that 30-foot radius. Well, I remember one day I woke up and nothing. Not even a busy signal. And yet my whole life I'd wake up and I had these conversations with the universe and all of this stuff in my space. And it was all broken. And technically, I guess I've really been working hard. We were doing a lot of what I call mental push-ups at the time, which means that, every day, sometimes, 8 hours a day, we're doing psychic phenomena tests and stuff. And I may have actually gotten a sprain, if you want to, kind of put it that way, to the psychic muscle. And anyway, I woke up kind of numb and just kind of, whoa, what's going on here? And so we went out for coffee. And interestingly enough, I caught myself in a moment. I actually got spooked because the waitress was right there, cup in hand, and I didn't see it coming. I didn't hear that sort of familiar. It's almost like a spider can kind of tell when a fly lands. You know what I'm saying? It's that kind of feeling almost, right? And I didn't get any of that until bam, there she was. And it was fascinating because it was that was such a big day, and this is what kind of probably I'm sharing it with you is because in that moment, I was psychic dead. I was psychic blind. I was psychic, whatever term or label you want to put on that. And I had an opportunity to recognize where most people are spending their lives. They have to wait until the waitress is standing right beside them with a coffee pot in hand to understand that this communication and connection has been going on for quite some time. If you sleep in one room and on the other side of that little tiny bit of drywall is somebody else sleeping in a bed next to you, energetically you're in each other's space. I'll leave the rest of that conclusion with you, but I've been in situations that, to be honest, even moving your bed outside of the space of somebody else being in it, for better or for worse, is of value. If somebody's in your space right now, you're having a communication and a conversation with them on levels that may be invisible, but it's still very real and tactile, to the point where if they showed up for work and they were in another office, if they showed up for work sick, you would be able to know. And so just allow yourself to step into your world in that expanded way, in that expanded consciousness way, And so, again, maybe, some feedback from me, because I want you to also be a mirror for me so I can learn and we can grow together. He's sorry, but I'm anxious now to bring Ariel out. I've been working and, playing, I guess, with, Ariel now for a number of months. Come on out, Ariel, if you don't mind. And I got to tell you, and you have to kind of sit down and take this now, Ariel, but I've seen nothing but dignity from this lady. And each one of those words was on purpose. I've for better and for worse, life happens. We stub toes, all of this stuff, follows, but I've never seen nothing but dignity. This is everybody meet Ariel. And I just want you to know that there's not so often that I meet in our culture and society, and I mean no disrespect in any way, shape, or form to the the gentler of our species, if you like, but it's tough to be a lady and a leader at the same time. It's really difficult to balance that in such a what appears to be an effortless way. And this is why I wanted to bring you out, Ariel, this time. Last time we had you out, we talked shop, and I love that. I mean, we're going to do way more of that. My God, there's so much information I want you to share with the world, But I actually wanted to meet you today.
Yeah.
I want to hear your story. I want to know a little bit more about you as that person, because the way I see you walking your walk is, I guess if I was to introduce my girls, I would want to introduce her to a lady like you. Do you understand? Because I'd want them to walk away with some of that, and I don't even know what it is exactly. So maybe if I just get to know you a bit differently, maybe there's some wisdom in there for me and the rest of us.
Well, wow. Like what a way to introduce. And I'm so honored that we met. And for those of you that don't know, it has been very interesting being an entrepreneur. I've been self-employed since 2019. I started off with a cleaning business, got myself through school, and then I started my own private practice as a healthcare provider. And when I started my practice, it's a lot of challenges because being a female and then also having, it's a very masculine world. What people don't realize is that I didn't have a background in business. I had a background in medicine, but I wanted to start a business. And I didn't have, a business degree, but I had to learn hard knocks. And I developed my business skills through just trial and error. And if you are a female in business, all I can encourage you to do is figure out what your core foundation is. What is your core beliefs? Mine was, I'm resilient. I want to lead with integrity. I want to lead with love. And I want every single person that comes into my circle, my aura, to feel that love and that empowerment, and that it's all about collaboration, not competition. There's no jealousy, there's no competition. We're all here to be part of the human experience. And we're all here to help each other in some way. I have a special set of skills that someone else might not have, but we're of equal value. No one is higher value than the other person. We all just have different gifts. And so keeping your ego at the door, and all I focus on is serving and nurturing. And that is what I do every step of the way. But I will tell you that it was very challenging being a female entrepreneur in the holistic space where you're trying to keep your femininity. Yeah. It's very easy to switch into your masculine energy. And that was something I had to battle with. It's very easy to go into that dominant masculine energy and lose your feminine form.
So this isn't just by accident then. This is something that you had to focus on. This is something you had to make of personal value in your world that was important, and that's what I suspected, and now I'm even more intrigued. Please tell me more.
So, I did a lot of deep work over the last 5 years on myself, because I realized the only person I can change is me, and you can only change within. Right? So I started doing, I listened to podcasts on personal development 1 hour a day. I made sure I read 1 to 3 books a year. I know that doesn't sound like much, but compounding over time, it is something, right? And that's what I could do for me. And that was also recognizing that I'm not perfect, but there are things about me that I wanted to tweak, because I wanted to become a certain type of level and quality of person. And maybe I didn't have all those qualities yet. And I knew that life was going to give me experiences to help build my character so that eventually I become the woman that I envisioned myself to be.
Totally.
Right?
Totally. Yeah.
And I think we have to have a clear perspective of the person. If we're not that person yet, it doesn't mean that it's that far off. Right? You could be 6 months or even 12 months away from becoming the best version of you, and then you just keep fine tuning. But I think people get impatient and they don't understand that sometimes things take time, and it's delayed gratification. And me and delayed gratification, we became best friends.
Okay.
It's very important. You will put the work in over and over and over and put your ego aside, and you won't always get the results that you want in the timing that you want, because it's actually not you in control. And I had to learn to surrender control on a daily basis, second by second, with my business, with myself, with my past, with my current situations, with my future, with my relationships, with my friends, with my family, with every single person that I had a human connection with. I had to surrender control, because it actually wasn't up to me, because whatever is meant to be will happen.
Oh. Now that's another part of your world that is an anchor. Yeah. You're a woman of faith. You've got the strong, I believe, Christian beliefs dynamics in your world, and even just that in today's world is almost unique. And when I hear you talk about having that faith in guidance, in direction, does that play a role in that with you, your relationship, there?
110%. I honestly would say that that's where my identity came from, because it's so easy to get wrapped up in social media or your looks, beauty, or your financial wealth, or your status, or where you live, what you drive, how much money you make, the people you associate with, the groups that you're connected with. We get so wrapped up with accolades that we forget that the way to actually measure success is not by your bank account, and it's not by what you've accomplished in this life, but actually the person that you become through life. The person, the development, the character. I want to see people go through storms and come out better, not bitter.
Oh,
right?
yeah. Chew on that, folks. That's a
Yeah.
good one right there. Totally. Yeah. Be better, not bitter.
Better, not bitter. And so many people go through life, they get knocked down multiple times. I've been there. I've been knocked down multiple times. No, but I chose to come out resilient with wisdom, grace, elegance, love, because those were my core values. I have them written out. I have all my core values written out that I look at every day when I brush my teeth.
Cool. Like on your mirror or something like that, or
who I want to be as a person, the character that I want to have. Because you need to remind yourself, because it's very easy, especially when you're going through a painful situation or someone has hurt you, it's very easy to react, right? What do? We fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, right? Our central nervous system just responds. But what if you actually took a step back from yourself, from your ego, and you looked at it from not your perspective, but their perspective? Start looking at things through other people's eyes and have compassion for them, for the way they respond, and stop taking everything so personal, and you'll have a better quality of life, and you will attract higher vibrational people, and you will leave a legacy of love and light with every step you take in this life. And that is what spirituality means to me.
And this, to be honest, we've just said actually is don't take anything personal. Is literally one of the laws of karma that's been passed through so many spiritual circles. It's interesting, and I agree with you. It's difficult. There are millions of dollars spent every day to try and make us feel something, right? The way they want us to feel, and so much of it is belittling, right? So much of it is disempowering, right? And distracting. And so having those those 4Fs show up, I get that, totally. So when you have your reminders, do you play with vision boards at all? Or is it, how would you set that up?
I just created a dream board with my girlfriends a week ago, and I have a massive 6-foot vision board in my house, and I look at it every day. And then I also practice gratitude every morning, where I physically will pray over other people's lives so that they will have abundance, growth, health, all that kind of stuff. So I have a prayer book that I pray over other people.
Awesome.
Yes, David. And then I also, just because I want people to have the best quality of life, and I want them to just really resonate from a higher frequency and attract a higher frequency, right? So I pray over people. I focus on the person, the fine tuning of who I want to be, and the areas of my life with my psychology or the things that I do or my character. Where can I fine tune? What can I work on? Can I be more loyal? Can I not listen to gossip? Can I, navigate right from wrong immediately? Can I listen to my intuition a little bit better? Can I read people better? Can I have more discipline? Can I push past, getting out of my own way, right? Little things like that, making that call, following up with that person, reaching out to that friend, even when you're going through your own pain, reach out to somebody else and see how they're doing.
That's huge. So often in my own world, people they're looking for love in their life. They're looking for compassion, and they're looking for it, from the outside world coming in. And my best advice is you should go volunteer. You should go give love and compassion, because I promise that's exactly the place you're going to find it, right? You really touch base on something really powerful as far as the fuel of manifestation is that gratitude energy, right? Of allowing that to be in your space, having a daily practice of allowing it literally, when you're talking about it, I'm seeing you literally all this bright light flowing through you and into these people that you love and care for, right? And there's so much value in that, right? The vision board, all the tools, and it's just, yeah, total respect, love. I get it totally. And this you developed, right? It wasn't as if someone just walked up and says, "Here you go," right? So you kind of had to, a little piece here and a little piece there. Is that right?
Well, I was on a mission. My New Year's resolution was to find inner peace. And I was on a mission to figure this out. And one piece of the puzzle that I had to master is being able to pray for my enemies and be able to love my enemies more than I love myself. Woo!
That's big.
That's fire. How many people
How
have
many of us?
people in their life that they cannot stand? Maybe they actually use the word hate. Maybe they wish this place would be better off without them. Love them more than you love yourself. You don't have to take them back. You don't have to forget, but you do need to forgive because it actually works on your healing,
Totally.
your inner peace. Every time you think of them, you just love them and you pray for them. And it's interesting how it starts to rewire your gene expression, your epigenetics. So you actually start to become healthier and more balanced body, mind, spirit because you're loving everyone, not just the people that are good to you, but the people that are not good to you.
Totally.
They need love most. It's true. You know, hurting people hurt people. And there's a lot of people, right? And there's a lot of people that just became bitter and nasty and they just need love. That's all they need. And for you to have the emotional maturity to look past what they're doing and just look at them as the inner child that's just having a temper tantrum. And what do you do with that inner child? You just embrace them. You just love them. Honey over vinegar. See what that does for your life and see what that does for your relationships. That's actually how I made a few of my closest friends. I have 3 friends that I would say are very, very close. And they were enemies first.
Happened to me. It's happened to me. Totally. Yes. Because again, right back when my little monologue at the beginning here, I talk about how so often it's those things in others that trigger you, or those things you dislike because you found them within yourself and you just haven't shadow danced with it yet. And so, yeah, absolutely. There's been people come into my life that triggered the F out of me, right? All the Fs, but yet now, oh my goodness, I couldn't imagine my life without them, right? For sure. And because in some cases they're that mirror for me, right? It's interesting. My dad, he's passed, but he was amazing in my life for being one of these mirrors that come back at us. And this is a good example of this because he was this Scorpio, right? That no matter what showed up in the world, they just see gray and doom, right? Kind of an idea. And so, and me being Pisces, I'm all, oh my goodness, rainbows and sunshine, and look at this idea. I get to create whatever I want, right? And so I'd come to him with these, pie in the sky dreams, right? My vision board was full of all sorts of nonsense, right? And I'd come to him with all of this stuff, and the first thing he would do is well, kid, this is why it won't work, and he'd have a list for me, even this and this and this and this. And, for the longest time, I thought he was just poo-pooing on my dreams. He hated me and just, yada, yada, yada. He didn't understand me, and the pity party continued, right? But then one day I approached him with this, and my mentality had changed from he was trying to poo-poo on my parade to all of a sudden now he gave me a checklist. Do you know what I'm saying, right? He okay, Dad, what's another reason why it won't work? Okay. So I get to pour all my stuff, all my wide dreams and fairies and all the cool stuff that I bring to the table. But at the same time, I had this opportunity for someone to show up and create that other part of the list that I couldn't see, right? For sure. And boy, I miss that these days sometimes. Good thing is I'm married now, so there. I'm kidding. She's nothing but grace in my life. Yeah, totally. But sometimes we do like to have these sounding boards, right? For sure. And sometimes what's bouncing back at us with that radar off that sounding board, isn't something we like seeing, right? For sure. Yeah, I do a lot of men's work. I do a lot of this kind of stuff, and I just honor anybody and everybody, even wanting to attempt to improve and value themselves, right? For sure. I appreciate what you said about the books. Yeah, I was a gazillion years ago, I got hooked on the book and tape, month through my Amway days, believe it or not. A gazillion years ago, they'd make sure that you got a book for leadership, of some form, right? And these, cassettes that they have on these leadership seminars that they were doing all the time, right? And it really inspired a personal growth dynamic. in my world that just hasn't stopped, right? And so, and I share this because, that inspiration can come from so many spaces and so many places, right? And, I guess at some point each of us hears that call of it's time to grow, right? And probably the toughest part about growth, I would have to suggest, is, and we talk about this when I do retreats sometimes, the last day just before that person's going home, they spent the last 3 days in this deep dive, or 4 days or a week or whatever it is, and they are definitively leaving a whole different person, right? How do they walk in the door and explain to that person who just saw them 4 days ago as this other human being who wasn't so perfect, maybe, right? Maybe he was even screaming at them on the way out the door, and he's coming in a whole new person, ready and willing and able to receive them differently. How do they see that? We didn't hit you with a paintbrush, right? And so we tell them that it's important to have these conversations and to let these people know in your world that you're also in this scenario. And that's part of the surrounding yourself with those people who are empowering you, right? It doesn't always work that way. Sometimes change can actually, we can grow so much that unfortunately we can sometimes shed some of the circles that we used to belong to, just because we outgrow them. And not in a way of, in a perspective of judgment even. It's just a perspective of, oh my goodness, I don't do that anymore, but they still do, and that's okay, right? Because now I know why I did it.
You have a point. You might be in someone's life for a reason or a season, but you are some of the 5 people you surround yourself with. And what people don't realize is when you're tapping into that, next level of wanting to grow, be prepared for the storm, because that's how you grow. It's called growing pains for a reason. No different than if you go to the gym and you get a good pump on, you have to tear the muscle. It has to hurt. You have to hurt for 3 days. Same thing with personal development. God will actually put people in your path when you're ready to grow to start growing. And that means it's time to level up. If everything's going all hunky-dory in your life and everything is just kind of coasting and like kind of boring, it's not good. It's actually not helping you and serving you. You actually want your feathers rustled, because that's going to help you get to the next level and the growth. And the whole human experience is not linear, right? It's like this, right? And how are you supposed to help other people if you haven't had experiences yourself, right? You can't help them on that level. And so don't be ashamed if bad things keep happening to you, but you do need to learn from those things and grow from those things so that it's just more tools in your toolbox. And just know that the ripple effect does happen. And sometimes some people that are on the sidelines watching you grow, they might not be your supporter now, but when you're done your growth in that specific chapter, now they are your supporter, even if it's in secret.
Totally.
And it is a ripple effect. It will trickle into everyone around you. I always say this all the time because we have a amazing program here for trauma in our clinic, and it helps with emotional dysregulation, and it's a device we hook up to your brain. It works on brain waves. It gets people back into a homeostasis and alignment after being, hit with PTSD or anxiety, depression, insomnia, all the emotional dysregulation. But what people don't realize is it doesn't just affect them. If they come in for their 10 or 20 sessions, yes, now they're balanced, but it actually affects their home. It affects their place of work. So it'll work with people at their work. They're going to feel it. We are so interactive that when we start to heal, we help other people heal. And when you had talked about gratitude there for a second, serving and volunteering, that's how I was able to heal myself. I went through a ton of trauma in my life, more than most people, and you would never know. You would never know. And it's not because I'm fake. It's because what I've done is I've looked at it just as the human experience. I'm just surrendering my control. I'm experiencing the pain. I'm experiencing the pleasure. I'm experiencing whatever human emotion is coming from that specific situation, because it's just part of development and growth. And when one of the ways I was able to heal myself is, yes, through my spirituality, my personal relationship with God, not a religion, just all about love and light.
Yeah.
But then leading with love and light to others. But my practice, by helping other people heal, it helped me heal.
Phew. Yeah.
So find something that you like to do and implement that into your lifestyle where you can get that dopamine hit and you can get that feeling of like helping someone else, because it actually will help you.
That's huge. I hear you. Totally. I hear you. I hear you. I hear you. Like I said, so many times it's like, you know what, volunteer. Just, show up someplace in your world. And it doesn't have to even, volunteer at Red Cross or anything that big or significant. Look for ways in any way, shape, or form, maybe just to help a neighbor.
Yeah.
Right?
Help someone.
Spend a second, look around your world. I guarantee there's something you can do right now that's going to take you less than 30 seconds that contributes to not just yours, but other people's well-being, and everybody wins. And just do that a couple times a day just to start, right? And because there's this, you're right, it's like an altruistic button that we have within ourselves. You know what I'm saying? And it's beyond the being judgmental or pious or, hey, look at me. It's beyond that, where every single person who becomes a millionaire, for example, a self-made millionaire, first thing they do is look for someone they can teach that to. We have this thing within ourselves. When we achieve a certain level of a success, we immediately want to pass that forward. Like I said, there's this altruism that shows up in that scenario, right? And that's in every industry and everything every endeavor that we might want to sink our teeth into as a human species. Totally.
What's huge for me personally in my life is I have something called a pay it forward method that I practice. So when I feel like sometimes I feel stuck or I feel like kind of emotionally like low, not depressed, but just like not feeling like on that high vibration, but everything's going really well. So I'm like, I don't understand. Like, why do I feel so emotionally low, but yet my life is going so well? What I do is I go back to my roots, which is the pay it forward method. Maybe I'll help someone load up their groceries at a Walmart parking lot a little late. Now I feel accomplished for the day. Maybe I'll call a friend who's actually been struggling and she's like, oh my gosh, your call came at the perfect time. I'm having the worst day. And now I'm just a soundboard for her to vent. And now she feels better and I've empowered her. Maybe I'm going through a drive-through for like, a tea or something, Tim Hortons or Starbucks, and I pay for the person behind me.
Totally.
Generosity, just being generous. You take a friend, you buy their coffee or you buy their dinner, just little things like that. And it's like, it goes a long way. Baking cookies for your neighbor, it goes a long way. You'd be surprised. And sometimes that's all you need. You don't need to necessarily, you might not have the time, maybe you've got kids, a big household, life is busy, but
Yeah.
you take 15 minutes and do some kind of act of kindness for somebody else. And that will actually kind of give you a bit of a hit to get you through the next week. And then you just do it again. And if you ever want to do acts of kindness, you can reach out to me anytime.
Totally. And like you said, it's a ripple effect. It's contagious. Yeah, honest to goodness, and I'm not just talking this way. That's how I get too. When I'm in that place, that space, I show up somewhere, somehow, right? And I've been caught myself by other people, and then they automatically default into that too, right? So, it's funny. I saw a meme or something along the lines of somebody did the pay the coffee thing forward, and it ended up like 63 times or something like that. It was really impressive actually. Who wants to be number 64 who ended that? You know what I'm saying? Right? Who wants to be that person? Right? Like, oh my goodness, really? And so it is contagious. And you know what? This is almost revolutionary. If you want to be a rebel, be kind. Yep. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just, because it's so maybe unusual, unfortunately, in today's, cultures and in our world, right? There's so much yuck. Right? There's so many reasons to be
selfless, Stop looking to manipulate people to get something out of it. And you might not be doing it intentionally. You might not even be aware, right? You could be manipulating your husband. You could be manipulating your kids. You could be manipulating your staff or your employees, your neighbor or your dog walker. And you might not even realize it.
Well, and that's because, yes, exactly, that's because you have a need that isn't being fulfilled and you're doing your best to fill that need in some way, shape, or form. You're experiencing a lack. I've always said so often, any kind of crime, including manipulation, is based upon lack. You're missing something in your world, or perceived something that's missing that you need to fulfill it with. And respect is on that list. Doesn't even have to be as profound as, you're hungry, for food, but Maslow's hierarchy of needs kick in. And we all as an individual need to be fulfilled of these different levels of our being. And if they're not, then yes, that's where the shadow stuff kicks in. And we are going to find ourselves flexing and receiving in whatever worked for us. Doesn't matter if it's the right way or not, but it worked. We got a temper tantrum and we got the lollipop, right? And that reinforced, and we're still having temper tantrums at 60, right? For sure. And so to change the patterns, right, is about being aware of them, but being conscientious of how we're showing up, right? Totally. I get it.
When you start working on the personal development, yes, your confidence grows. Yes, you have a clearer vision of your integrity and your morals and all that. But the trap, and this is actually something that I personally struggled with, was then I started to get my ego, right? Yeah. And I started to boast and brag. So that's where you want to be very careful. When you start to hit a certain level of success, where you're hitting 6-7 figures, totally. And then all of a sudden you start losing yourself, right? And you actually fall into the sea of success. And it can become very vicious, where you start to lose who you are. And you're no longer sharing your updates to your friends and family about what's going on in your life. Instead, you're just bragging and boasting. And that's a slippery slope, because that will actually cause you to trip and fall.
Totally. And it depends on what your intention is, right? Like I've caught myself sometimes thinking I'm boasting, but actually what I'm trying to do is share with somebody that this worked for me. And look, my results are better. And you know what I'm saying? And then there's other times, and this is an interesting dance, isn't it? Right? That the ego scenario. And so for me, it boils down to the intent. If I'm just showing off, right? Then of course I'm in the wrong place, right? For sure. Before the fall, right? For sure.
It's a whole dance, because there's some people that haven't had success yet, and they're trying to get to that. And success could be in so many different areas: personal development, maybe going after a fitness thing or a relationship thing, or it could be anything: spiritual, body, mind, whatever that is. But then be careful, because the other side is when you get too far on the spectrum, now all of a sudden you think that you've learned it all, and you're a pro and you're an expert, and there's nothing left to learn. That's the danger, right? We are always learning. You never stop learning, right? And so that's something that, from personal experience, you kind of got to keep yourself in check if you haven't had success. And for those of you that had tons of success, you want to maybe look at the quality of person that success has brought you, and bringing the type of people into your life, and see if those people are grounded and embodied. You want to still be embodied in the basic characteristics and foundational beliefs that you started off with. Don't lose yourself.
Correct. And, when we're screening or vetting these people in our lives as we grow, let's use money for an example. And it's only just one measurement of personal growth. It's my belief system that as your personal growth increases, so too will your income. It's just been my experience. It's what I've witnessed as well, accidentally almost, right? For sure. It's just the way it is. Power and all these dynamics take place, for sure. But as we grow, there are going to be, for example, when we use the money expression, let's say now you're worth 6 figures a year, right? 100 grand a year, whereas most of you and your friends were 45, 60,000 the year before. And after a while, what's going to happen is you're going to be able to take that trip to Hawaii, but they can't keep up, right? That's one example. And yes, it may be the first couple of trips you'll be, hey, I got this, don't worry about it, right? I'll pick up the tab, I'll yada yada yada. You can be that generous person because you're seeing some more abundance in your world. But at some point there comes a time when there's an energetic posture that's going to take place that's incorrect, right? For sure. And I don't want to create any caste disbursements here either. It's just what I've seen and witnessed, because it doesn't even have to just be about money. If you get two people who are best buddies because they're both anger ragers, and one of them is no longer an anger rager, it's the same in balance. Does it make sense, right? But it's an emotional or a reactive dynamic, right? For sure. And so if we look at the whole medicine wheel, for example, those extremes and those separations are going to take place as you grow, right? You don't see butterflies hanging out with caterpillars very often. They're not dancing in the same dance hall anymore, right? And so there is this evolution. And I'm sharing this not just agree with what you're sharing, Ariel, but for our listeners that, there just may have to be a time when you just take a deep breath and say, I got to create space between me and that I've outgrown here, that I you just, whether it's a person or a place or a job or an emotion, or there has to be that letting go part of the process also. Quitting smoking is huge because there's a mourning process involved with it. That cigarette's never let you down. It's always been there, 3 a.m. or whatever, never said no, right? Et cetera, et cetera. And so here you are, sometimes after 20 years, what I'm saying, you're not just the habit itself, but there's an emotional connection that takes place as well. And so healing, and I appreciate, I'm singing to the choir here with Ariel because she's at the clinic. We kind of got it all covered, mind, body, soul. What I'm saying? I mean, where can we put the Band-Aid, right? Where can we help, right? Kind of an idea, past meets future. But the whole dynamic is there still has to be this process of letting go to make room for that new space, to make room for that new version of yourself that you're hoping to create, for sure. You can't be misbehaving with the same old mischievous habits and expect a different result, right? Totally.
You have to be true and honest to yourself. And for people that don't know, like I'm on a whole new path right now. And something that I've actually been walking through the last 2 months is solitude and independence.
Mm.
And I used to be on a path where I was afraid to be alone. I was afraid to, be with myself. And what people don't realize is that is the most important relationship. You come into the world alone and you leave alone and you have a experience and you interact with other human beings, but no one's coming to save you, no one to rescue you, and humans are still human. They will make mistakes, just like myself, and they will hurt you, right? But what you do with that hurt and how you heal from it will affect the future relationships you have. And so what I've been working on my own journey is a healing process over the last 2 months and becoming very comfortable with my own self and working on that coherence restore. And what I mean by that is getting up here connected to here, right? Getting the heart and the brain reconnected. Because a lot of people don't realize, but when you've had trauma or you've had a lot of stress or you're just really busy, like you just pack your schedule, you don't have days off, you can barely have time to think or breathe, you actually distort the quantum field of your subconscious and your conscious and your heart. And that distortion will affect your gut health. It'll affect all cell function, 11 body systems, and you can control that. But sometimes less is more. And that's something that I've been discovering personally is sometimes I actually have to isolate for a little while so that I can do the deep work with, my creator, and we can work through some stuff so that I can come out better and stronger for future people and for myself. And I kid you not, when you go through your season of being renewed or reborn, it's like you're completely a different person. It's so cool. So if you haven't done that before and you've never self-isolated for a little while and worked through your layers like a little onion, and you got to peel back all the layers and you got to work through it one at a time, and it takes energy. I am exhausted sometimes, but it's so fulfilling on the other side if you want to look for inner peace.
Totally. For me, the silence speaks to me. So, there's a reason why these hermits, climb the mountaintops to hide in a cave to get away from people, right? For sure. And the cave, because then it's also total darkness. I'm a firm believer in, to be honest, doing the work, in darkness as well. The ISO chamber could be an example, or just, after dark, right? Kind of an idea. There's a lot of value, at least for me anyway, to be in that isolation, to be in that dynamic, right? The cool thing about some of the ISO tanks, for example, the ones that you float in, is that the temperature is exactly the same temperature as your body temperature. When you're in an environment that is the same temperature as you actually have less of that cognizant feeling of self. You actually become very expansive because to be honest, our sense of temperature is a really, really big factor in us determining that I am me, and that's different from anything else that's in this room, right? It's fascinating how just even that is such a significant sense in our world. And so, yes, getting yourself to a place where there's no sound, there's no vibrations, silent retreats. Whenever I fast, for example, I'll do a 4-day fast at least, 4 times a year, solstice and the shifts, the seasons, sometimes when I'm also doing spiritual work. And in those 4 days, um, often sound is at least once a year, I'm going to make sure that I don't speak, I don't make a sound, I don't, of that nature. And there's, after those 4 days, there's such a peace inside myself. It's like my waters get still, even if I'm surrounded by other noises. I mean, fasting and doing the silent work doesn't necessarily mean bed rotting, folks. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? You need to be active. You need to, you know what I'm saying? Talk to the sun if you can, go for a walk, etc. All that stuff, right? But so it's possible, even if you're living in the city, etc., to be able to pull it off. I promise, right? For sure. But yeah, there's something to be said for what she's saying. Totally.
And that's where like a solid routine, because we need systems, right? And people always ask me, like, how do you balance everything in life? And I have a routine, and nothing will interrupt my routine unless it's like an emergency. But like, for those of you that don't know, like, I train 3 hours a day. I'm not a pro athlete, but I train like one, and I train with a pro athlete. And so I wake up sometimes 5:30 or 6 a.m. I do my gratitude, I do my prayers, I do my 1 liter of ERW water, and then I go and do fasted cardio, and I train like a beast. And then I'll eat at the gym, and then I'll do another hour of training after that, and then I'll do another hour of my steps. And so, because I have to get my 10,000 steps a day, which you should too. Everybody should. So I prepare my endorphins, and I fill up my own cup so that I am operating at peak performance so that I can serve other people without draining myself, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I do for myself. Then I go to work and I'll see 8 to 10, maybe even 15 clients in a day. And then I also work on my other couple businesses that I have. And people always say, how do you do it? How do you run 4 businesses? And then also, do all your own meal prep, drink your own water, get your sleep, work on your personal development, go to church, have community, all that. And you have to figure out your priorities, and you have to have a planner, and you have to be strategic, and you have to figure out what you can and cannot do. And my plan might look different than yours, but for those of you that are struggling to get things done in your day, you can do it. And I hate it when people say you got to grind. Grinding is optional. You don't have to grind. You can just do the things that you choose to do because you write your own story. You can do the things you choose to do, and you can do them in such a way where you love doing them.
Yeah.
I am excited to get to the gym, not because I have to, because I love doing it. I love how it makes me feel. I love the endorphins. I built a community there, and I'll see all my friends there in the morning. So it's like, I need that, right? So you find
Totally. And you know what? To be active doesn't even necessarily, it could be the gym. It could be go for hiking. It could be bicycle. It could, pick the sports or the activity that you like. Again, if you're showing up, what I'm saying, hiking in the mountains and you hate that, maybe try swimming, hit the pool, right? Do your laps, right? Or again, gravitate, get to know yourself so well that you know what you like. Honest to goodness. And because then you're actually more likely to duplicate it too, right? So, for sure, rather than, oh man, this again, with the whole different, that it certainly takes away from that gratitude that, oh no, this again, right? So, honest to goodness, where it's different of, oh, I don't have to, I get to. Yeah, and when you can make that shift from I have to I get to, everything changes instantly. Yeah, totally.
Healthcare is so important. There was a Harvard study done where 33% of your day needs to actually be dedicated to self-care. So whether that's you going and getting your nails done or getting your hair pampered with, or you are having a cup of tea and reading a book, or having a bubble bath, or getting a massage, listening to music, going dancing, exercising, whatever that is, 33% of your day needs to go to you. And if you don't do that, then you will actually start to become emotionally dysregulated because you're not transporting that energy out of your own orbital field. So what people don't realize is that we are interacting with people constantly.
Awesome.
And so energy and emotions are the same thing. Emotions are just energy in motion, which can create a chemical response on your cells and your genes, and it can physically turn genes on or off, known as epigenetics. You can learn all about this with Dr. Joe Dispenza with Becoming Supernatural. It is wild. But people don't give enough time for their own self-care. And if you don't love yourself, obviously, how are you going to love other people?
Correct. You don't know what flavor it comes in, right? Like, totally, right? And this is a really big one because, to be honest, this self-love is such an interesting. We've been programmed, unfortunately, almost from the onset that if you love yourself too much, that's conceited or arrogant or, all this stuff. And I think it boils down, in my opinion, you're allowed to love yourself to the moon and back as long as you never compare. As long as you never say, I love you more than me because you're better than me at whatever it is that they are, or I love me less than because you're better than, or of course, I love me better than you because as long as you're never in a comparison mode, you're actually in competition, if you like to even use that word competition, with yourself. Right? Love yourself. It's been my experience that those people who love themselves a lot, I don't have to worry about whether they're lying or stealing or why, because they're looking, they're paying attention, right? And it would break their heart, to be in love with somebody who's a liar or a da 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 and all that stuff. And so they become their own keeper. And not just because of fear of being perceived as less, but just because they're radiating and they're literally showing up in a whole different vibration. And that again is not only contagious, but like attracts like. If you could surround yourself with people who just love the heck out of themselves so much, all their cups are filled, that require nothing from you, and each one of you is eager and ready to pour into the other, right? Then you have something. It's exponential then, right? Totally.
So good. I love what you just said.
Yeah.
I love what you just said. And that is so freaking powerful. And I think some people that are watching this, not some people, everyone watching this, get your notepad, get your pen. You're going to want to watch this over and over and over. We dropped so many good nuggets today for
Totally. Yeah.
so many areas. Like,
Yeah.
this was so fun.
I agree. Yeah, totally. It's funny because we only have an hour, what I'm saying? But it's so often we just get this close to solving all the world's problems and it's time to go, right? For sure. Actually, just because here we are, we haven't even done a commercial break. Where can we find you, Ariel? Yeah.
So I'm located, my physical clinic is located in Langley, BC, but I will help people locally and internationally, globally. So reach out to Vitality Wellness World. You can see us on Instagram, Facebook, or Google. And just reach out to us. Our phone number is 604-217-2588. We're open 7 days a week. Walk-ins are available. We're open from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday to Friday, and then Saturday, Sunday, 10 to 6. We would love to connect with you. We would love to meet you. If you want to meet with me directly, I do a free health consult, or just let's have a conversation. We have a beautiful little lobby here where we can have a cup of tea, and I would love to just get to know you and see if there's anything in my network that could potentially help you, right? Even if I can't help you, I have a roster of people that I'm connected to that might be able to solve your problem, or just be a good person to have in your corner. We're meant to help each other. And so I would love to hear from you. I'd love to meet with you in person or virtually. And I would love to see what we can strike up.
Totally. And, what I'm seeing here is, she's kind of networking a tribe together, right? And when she talks about being able to help you with some of the services, it's kind of because you've got this expanded network of people who are just kind of like us, wanting a better life in every way we can, right? And that person over there offers that service, and this person over here offers this service. And it's, it's always word of mouth. And, the local yokels and stuff that you always get not only just the better deals from, but again, it's kind of cool because it's a tribe within, but you aren't actually living on top of each other, right? I'm saying? Everyone's going about their lives, but all it takes is a phone call of, yeah, Ariel sent me, and the doors are open, right? For sure, and reciprocal, and vice versa. Anyone comes to me and says, yeah, Ariel sent me, it's like, okay, doors are open. How can I help, right? And there is this, not just a pattern, but there's this presence of goodwill, of that altruism that we're talking about. It's not just yapping. We're not just yapping at you here. This is kind of how we're living our lives. And we're hoping that it's contagious, right? I hope you catch this. I'm not even going to cover my mouth. I hope you catch these love bombs, right? Totally. Because this is what's going on. if you show up, I'm usually there every Friday, almost at least. But I mean, sometimes during the week, if you want to meet me there, and I'm going to introduce you to a chair. Oh my goodness, there's this chair she has in her front lobby there. I've named him Raoul the Poor Boy because he knows how to rub me so good, and there's something about just being in that temple space. I call it a temple because there's so much cool energy going on, right? A cup of cacao in one hand and Raoul rubbing away, and there's something wonderful that happens just to show up and be in the presence, right? So, for sure. And there's a lot of value. You actually have people who come out just to rent the PEMF mats too, right? You know what I'm saying? Just, $20 or something like that, $25 or something like that. And, and I mean, that's a whole new dynamic all to itself. That's kind of the precursor to med bed stuff, right? It's, this is where technology hits the quantum, hits the human biofields. And it's just, the tech is showing up and it's really cool, for sure. When she says she has almost all of it, because we've also got this reflexologist who has, she's a wonderful, wonderful lady, but I'm loving, she's got these man hands. Oh my God, just twist me into a pretzel wonderfully every time I see her. Yeah, for sure. And so there's a lot going on there. And so definitely, make your way out there. And, I can't rave enough. What I see in you now, one of the things I also kind of have been inspired by you was you had talked about offering men's groups. And so technically every couple of weeks I have an online version, but I'd love nothing better than for us to gathering, and I have permission to do so in this space as well, to have this men's group every Friday night, or every second Friday. I do have one, it's called Men's Den. You can join the Facebook group if you want, just to kind of get an idea of, what's going on in the systems and all that stuff. Men only. Yeah, sorry, ladies. Absolutely. And it's going to be Y chromosome men, kind of idea. We'll discern that in a healthy way, and that's because, it takes a tribe. And, being a guy, growing up as a Boy Scout, I had all male teachers and leaders and stuff like that in that. And I really appreciated that masculine camaraderie. I really appreciated that I could have conversations with these men in this tribe, in this community, that I just couldn't have with a girl, right? Honest to goodness. And you can take 100 guys, put them in a room together, and they're going to behave differently if even just one girl shows up. And vice versa, it's the same. I encourage women to also spend time with good women, right? And so what this is leading ultimately is that, Ariel, I know you aren't necessarily running a woman's group, but again, I really admire people watching you walk your walk, right? For sure. And I do believe that you're an inspiration. And, as a member of my tribe, there's a lot of respect, for what you're about, and anything I can do to make your world a better place, I know will help everybody's world become a better place, even people who may not even know my name. Totally. Yeah.
Likewise, my friend. Yeah, we met for a very specific reason, and it was the perfect timing. And we are helping so many people together. I can't even believe it. Sometimes I have to pinch myself with my life because I can't believe the life that I have. And especially with everything that I've gone through. And it's just such a blessing to keep meeting so many remarkable people like yourself. And then when we're together, we amplify the healing, right? We're heal even.
Well, you really have to find, and the secret here is you really have to find a group of people who are, everyone's just willing to pay it forward, right? They have to be willing to just pour in without the expectation, because it's not a contract, it's not an agreement, it's not an exchange. I'm going to pour this much in and I'm going to receive. It doesn't quite work that way. It's not a negotiation. But when you have this team of people, this energetic, and I'm saying this to, of course, the people who are viewing, find your tribe that are prepared to just pour into you, and you can pour in back without even paying attention to score, right? So, because then everybody gets to be completely filled, and all the dreams and the fantasies come true, right? That's the secret, I promise, to this becoming exponential. And that's us being a rebel. That's us taking our world back from the crazy, right? That we're seeing so much of out there, for sure.
live in a society where people have to win or lose. You see this in sports. You see this when you get a good deal on something that you purchased. Well, at the end of the day, if you got a good deal, then that means someone else got a bad deal. And we're so conditioned to have this win-lose mentality. But what if we had it where we all win?
Totally. I've
Right.
actually lost contracts because when I walked away from it, I could see that I was getting a way better deal. Okay. You know, and so I actually went back to the conversation again to try and renegotiate it. So it was actually just a little more balanced, right?
Yeah.
You know, what was so interesting was the people on the other side of the table were instantly suspicious. Right? You know, like, what are you trying to pull here? You're trying to manipulate something, da, 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 and all this. I'm like, no, 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 you don't understand. I want to create a deal today, that both of us feel we're getting the better end of the deal. That, you know, both of us are so happy so that I can phone you up next year and say, same deal, stamp, stamp. It's already done. Rather than me phoning you up a year from now and you know that I got the better end of the deal and you're coming from a place of, I got to get mine this time. Does it make sense? I don't want that energy showing up. I instead, let's create this win-win now because it's possible, right? You know, both of us are pouring in, and then at the end of the day, we can just continue, right? That same process and let it magnify and let it become something rather than one's always trying to get the one-upmanship, right? You know, for sure. It completely distracts from success, in my opinion, totally.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we've run out of time. Oh, boo-hoo. You know,
Okay.
totally. Yeah. Well, to be continued. We're gonna have you back again, definitely. And just, yeah, never a dull moments. Thank you, everybody, for listening again. We'll see you again next week. And of course, you can track me down on all the social media and websites and all that. Never a dull moment.
Mwah. Thank you so much.